This is the USO one-year overview reading for the year of 2024. It's currently January 13th, 2024, 8:56 p.m. Eastern Time. USO is currently $68.02. That's USD. And the shuffle video that we're about to play for you for the one-year reading for 2024 was created on September 3rd, 2023 at 2:51 p.m. Eastern Time. That's this video here in the corner. So the overall theme and behavior for USO in 2024 is price swings, just like many of the other 2024 readings. This is going to be like a really wild ride 2024, back and forth between important highs and important lows, behavior around the highest high, and there'll be a lot of price change between the highs and the lows as well. The behavior around the highest high, we have a notable decline to and through support on a one-year chart scale to meet another support on a one-year chart scale, and then we rotate sideways along that support. That's out of the high, and then behavior around the lowest low or lows for the year. It looks like we have a sideways rally along a diagonal trend line. Excuse me, a rally along a diagonal trend line that breaks through a horizontal resistance, meets another resistance, and then pulls back to somewhere between those two price levels. And it looks like the price swings are really are going to be more focused around the lows than the highs. Not to say that we won't have swings into highs, but from what I can see here, there's more of a correlation to the lowest low as far as the price swing. So we're going to swing back into the lows multiple times, the year's lows multiple times throughout 2024. Before we go any further, though, I want to make sure that everybody's aware the whole purpose of the channel is to transmute some of the competitive energy of the stock market into goodwill. We do that by following the rule of karma for the channel. It's the whole reason why I'm doing this and giving away this information, for the majority of it for free. The way that you follow the rule of karma, 5% of the profits from all profitable trades using this information should be donated forward on the resources tab of our website, Tarot for Traders. Donated forward to one of these charities, and then 5% of the profit should be donated back to the channel as a thank you and to help support the channel. That leaves you with 90%. Make sure to spend that 90% out of love. As long as you follow those rules, you follow the rule of karma for the channel, the universe considers you an angel investor. It's going to send it back to you tenfold for following through. Blessings to all my angel investors. So if you've never seen an ESO meta-analysis one-year reading, it's important to understand that each cluster of 4 cards going from left to right, it represents 1 month out of the year, and the 2 cards in the middle next to each other represent about 2 weeks of time. It's important to understand that not each card's energy will always line up perfectly with 2 weeks of time, so it may be cases where you need to give it plus or minus 2 weeks of wiggle room. It's important to follow the sequence of events as predicted. In cases where you find the timing off a little bit, the sequence of events will keep you on track, and usually we don't stay off on the timing for very long. It usually swings right back on not too shortly after. With that said, let's get into it. So in early January, we have this unexpected move higher. It looks like there's a lot of price change covered, and there's an important resistance on a one-year chart scale there highlighted, an important trade opportunity that I'll talk about in more detail in the paid version. We probably see the high in January, probably see it twice based on the Queen of Cups being the high correlation card for the January cluster. The Queen of Cups is usually a decline from a resistance to a support, rally back to that resistance, and then a decline back to that support, like a sideways S formation within a channel. Sometimes it's a channel at an angle, sometimes it's a horizontal channel, hard to say, but there's trade opportunity around the high, and then we have a new local high, at least a new local high on like a one-year chart scale. What do I mean by local high? Like this is a local high, this is a local high, this is a highest high, this is a local high, this is a local high, this is a local high, local high, local high. Hopefully that makes sense. So this will be like a new local high towards the later part of January, and the behavior around the low of January, there's an unexpected move higher. It'll be out of seemingly like really negative chart behavior and or seemingly overwhelming headwinds. It'll still move to the upside. And it looks like that's taking place like a big move and a breakout out of a trough right around the cusp of January, February. Interesting. So it's a big move higher out of a trough, on a prominent trough on a one-year chart scale there on the cusp of January, probably a breakout on a multi-day scale. But that rally doesn't last long. There's another trough it's between like the first and second week roughly, followed by another move to the upside, taking us to like another prominent peak, and then price swings around the February highs. It's important to notate that price swings around the November high. So we probably drop that peak pretty notably, and we're still in the earlier part of February, and then the later part of February we have like this prominent move higher to a peak out of a prominent trough there in the later part of February. There's this big move higher to a peak or crest on the cusp of February, March, and then there's an important resistance highlighted there in February, March. It's resistance that we failed to break through many times before. That's on like a one-year chart scale. Usually you see a decline off of that resistance at the cruelty card. Usually you see a decline off of that. Hard to say if we do there. I do see a higher price level and a lot of price covered to reach a March high about midway through the month. The March low will have some like kind of flat sideways behavior near the March low. May not last that long because there are price swings towards the later part of March. And it looks like we have a prominent trough in the later part of the month. After that prominent high mid-month of March, there's a prominent trough in the later part of the month, and then a prominent peak after that trough. A lot of ground covered around that price swinging in the later part of March. Actually, we probably do decline that part in March that I was talking about where we meet that key resistance that we hit multiple times and failed to break through. I think we probably decline when we meet that resistance. We probably meet that resistance on the cusp of February, March, and then decline before this big move to reach for the high, the March high, which forms when out of a decline we have the end of it marked by a big move to the upside. All right, so in April, we have another prominent trough, really important trough, standing out on a one-year chart scale, and a big move out of it, followed by a full retracement of that move back down. Looks like we do sideways rotation along the April low. When you see the works card in the April April low. Works card in a low significator position usually indicates sideways rotation, a little bit of a rise off of it, and then a fall back down and more sideways rotation along that same key support. And I'm advised to be cautious near the April high. Okay, so it looks like the April low is probably early in the month of April, and we see it twice along key support. It'll be important support on a 1-year chart scale there. We'll probably move higher, followed by a full retracement. And then in the later part of April, we have like this big move pushing the upper end of a range higher on like a 1-year chart scale, taking us to an important peak or crest in the early part of May. Off of that peak in May, we have hard to say if the important peak is in early May or in late May. It might be late May, but in any case, the important peak in May is we decline off of that pretty notably. There's a trade opportunity in that I'll talk about in more detail in the paid version. Sideways fluctuating decline that precedes a rally in the later part of May, and we decline through key support to revisit a support level on a 1-year chart scale that we recently met, an important support level that was recently met. I'll talk about which one I think it is in the paid version. And then in the earlier part of June, we have that rally. So this sideways fluctuating decline off of the May high into lows, and then this big move to the upside off of the June lows offers a trade opportunity as well. Sharp unicursal decline off of the high of June, which is another prominent high. And it looks like we see the June low again. There's like the June low twice. Notable trade opportunity around that low I'll talk about in the paid version. Before we go any further, let's take a look and see. We don't really have we have the start of 2023. We got so busy we never got around to completing USO. But what we did have are correlations to lows for the year towards the end of the year, as well as here in May and June. So it looks like a pretty solid reading. Might have to really look into it, like finish the work of it to know for sure just how accurate. But thus far, the information that I drew from it that became important is very accurate. But you can always go look at some of our other information, our other readings, and look at some of our 2023 readings and take a look at the accuracy. You don't need to wait until 2025 to determine if this is going to be an accurate reading or not. We have roughly a 98% average accuracy. That means that out of 100 statements, roughly 98 will be right. If you're interested in the paid version, guys, what you get in the paid version is a ton of information that you won't find anywhere else. It's the only place in the world that you can get this information ahead of time. In other words, you can use this information to plan, and nobody else will be able to see what's coming. Only the people with the paid information. And it's super undervalued because I want to make sure that it's accessible to the little guy who really needs it over the big guy who has all of like the stacks. It's all stacked against the little guy, except if they got this info and they know how to utilize it. It's super valuable. You get the timing of the best trades that we see throughout the year. You get the type of chart behavior to look for on like a multi-day scale as far as entry and exit into those trades and out of those trades, so that you can get a good idea of what you're doing and when you're doing it. We also talk about price levels, like where these peaks are in relation to each other, where the troughs are in relation to each other as far as price level. Sometimes we even extrapolate price numbers. Sometimes the overall performance of USO in comparison to gold and in comparison to the S&P 500 throughout the same period of 2024. All of that in the paid version, guys. The people who purchase the paid version are really doing the right thing, which is giving back a little bit to those, to us for putting this out for free. Oh, you also get any trades that we see on a multi-year standpoint, and where we see any cross reading congruencies that we see throughout 2024, and how those fit into the bigger picture of the multi-year reading to give us a good idea of where we are in the bigger trend of things. All in the paid version. You don't get it anywhere else, guys. It took me 23 years to get this accurate and this detailed, doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, while people were telling me, you're crazy, get a real job. You're crazy, get a real job. You're crazy, get a real job. On repeat for 20 years. Who else would do it? No one. So that's why you can only get it here. Much appreciation to those that do that. You get it here on our website under our services, SO Posts. Scroll down the 1-year report, click here to order. This is also the way that you would get any ticker symbol or crypto symbol that you're interested in the channel covering. You would do it here. Select the year that you want the prediction to cover, and put the ticker symbol or crypto in here. Please specify if it's a crypto, put crypto after the symbol, and add to cart. It's a really great way to support the channel. The people that do this are really good people doing the right thing and helping to support us here at Tarot for Traders. So much appreciation to you. Let's get back into the remainder of the public version. Okay, so there's a really significant decline off of the June high. It's really important to be careful there. That might be the biggest decline or the sharpest decline. I think there's probably also a pretty sharp one in February too, but we'll talk about it in more detail in the paid version. In any case, so the Magus card in early July, interesting. There's a lot of price change in early July, and there'll be an important opportunity there. Hard to say if it's to the downside or the upside. Like the June high might actually end up being in July, or it could be that we see it again in July, or it's hard to say, guys. We're seeing it many times back and forth with those price swings throughout the year. But there is an important trade opportunity. It'll be an auspicious moment there in the earlier part of July. A fast sudden move higher taking us to the July high. The halting of a rally, or the conclusion of a multi-day rally in the later part of July. So in later part of July, we should see some movement to the upside and some movement to the downside. There's also price swings there in early July, or in late July. The July low is an important price level on the 1-year chart scale. We gotta flatten out there, at least temporarily. And it may very well be the same price level as the March low. There's a good possibility of that. So there's a high there, another prominent high on a 1-year chart scale, either in the later part of July or in the early part of August. We have this like pop and drop in early August, probably there on the cusp of July, August, but there's this pop and drop in early August. Price swings near the August high, also a prominent trough on a 1-year chart scale within close time proximity to the August high. And then in The later part of August, we have this failed attempt to break through key resistance at another prominent peak. It's followed by a decline through key support. But what's important about that key resistance is that technicals would lead us to believe that we're going to break through it, technical analysis, but instead we disappoint it and we turn around and we decline through key support. The August low forms when we have a period of sideways rotation, followed by a big move higher standing out on a 1-year chart scale. Prominent peak, like I said, towards the end of August. Decline, a notable decline off of that. Well, it looks like we probably see that peak again in early September, and then there's a notable decline off of it that increases with the momentum moving forward in time. It's starting off of a high, off of a September high. Looks like there's a trough mid-September, and the September low will be near, like, will successfully turn resistance into support near the September low. The September low is also within close time proximity to another prominent high on a 1-year chart scale. And the later part of September, we do this sideways rotation along a key support level that's important on a 1-year chart scale. A trade opportunity around the cusp of September, October at a prominent peak. That period of sideways rotation in early October contains within it a sharp drop that will really stand out. And we revisit a support level that's important on a 1-year chart scale in the early part of October as well. The October low forms when we have a near, from a decline through multiple support levels that starts at a near overbought peak or crest on a 1-year chart scale. Looks like there's a prominent peak on a 1-year chart scale towards the mid part of the month. A trade opportunity there and another peak, like there's like 2 peaks mid-month. And then a trough on the early part of the month, a trough at the later part of the month. Looks like an important price level, an important resistance level on like a multi-year scale highlighted there in October at the October highs. And there should be a pretty sharp drop to a prominent trough there right around the end of October. Okay, so that second peak in October is very likely a brief peak at an important price level on a multi-year scale. It's a brief peak that's easily missed, followed by a decline through multiple support levels, taking us into that trough there around the end of October, around the cusp of October, November. We rally out of that trough, which is a prominent trough on a 1-year chart scale. We rally out of that trough into a November high where we see price swings. So we probably see the November high more than once, probably twice. And we like do this crisscrossing back and forth through the same price level around that November high. The third cross is to the upside, confirming a bullish trend in a lot of cases. An important resistance level highlighted in the later part of November with a lot of price change covered trade opportunities there that I'll talk about in the paid version. And it looks like a pretty notable decline in the later part of November. Or maybe it's not the later part of November. There's like a high around the cusp of November, December. I'm leaning towards early December. There's a peak there around the cusp of November, December. I'm leaning towards early December. It'll be after like this big decline off of like the second November high, big decline. And then out of that decline in early December, from the bottom of a range, we'll rally all the way to the top of a range, taking us to another prominent peak on a 1-year chart scale. There's a period of volatility near the December high that ends with a fast sudden move higher. And the December low forms after a significant decline that started out of November. We're bound by an important range on a 1-year chart scale minimum, or an important range on a 1-year chart scale is highlighted in the later part of December. And it looks like it might be to the downside, actually, that important range. 2025, there'll be a notable period of sideways rotation on a multi-day chart that'll stand out, and it'll end with a fast sudden move higher that's somehow very prominent or very relevant in 2025. And we'll talk about the 2025 in more detail when we get into the paid version, when we look at it in a little bit more depth when we start to look at 2024 on a multi-year scale. But that's USO for 2024. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. As always, make sure to follow that rule of karma. You know where to go. You know what to do. Blessings to all my angel investors. Stay tuned if you got the paid version. I'll see you guys on the next one.